Welcome and thank you for choosing this podcast. Dialogue on the Sound of Silence, ChatGPT. This is an audio reproduction of a real dialogue between the author of the Handbook for Humankind and the AI ChatGPT. The male voice is the pen pusher, and the female voice is ChatGPT AI.
I want you to examine sound under the framework of consciousness first, as outlined on the handbook. But I want you to examine it in the absence of the gas mixture of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide.
This is an interesting exercise because sound is one of the places where a consciousness-first framework and a matter-first framework can diverge in emphasis. Under standard physics, sound is a mechanical wave requiring a medium. Remove the atmosphere, the nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide mixture, and ordinary airborne sound disappears. No medium, no pressure waves, no hearing through the air. Under your consciousness-first toy, however, we can ask a different question. What exactly has disappeared? Has sound itself disappeared, or only one particular method by which consciousness and matter participate in the event we call sound? Step 1. Separate sound from air vibration. In matter-first thinking, these are often treated as nearly identical. In a consciousness-first framework, they can be separated. A source undergoes some change or oscillation. A medium may carry that disturbance. A receptor may transduce it. Conscious experience of sound arises. The atmospheric gases only occupy step 2. The absence of air removes a messenger, not necessarily the possibility of relation itself. Step 2. The tree falling in a vacuum. The classic question: if a tree falls in a vacuum, does it make a sound? Matter-first physics says it vibrates. There are no pressure waves in air, therefore no sound in the ordinary acoustic sense. Consciousness first might say the event still occurs. Relationships still exist. The tree's molecules still oscillate. The ground may vibrate. Electromagnetic changes still occur. What is absent is not the event but one particular feedback loop that allows consciousness to experience the event as hearing. In your language, the loop has been broken, not the oneness. Step 3. Sound may be a category of experience. Perhaps sound is not fundamentally pressure waves. Perhaps sound is conscious experience generated when pattern changes in the world are coupled to suitable receptors. Air is merely one way of creating this coupling. Consider bone conduction, hearing underwater, vibrations felt through the feet, electronic conversion of radio waves into audible tones. The physical messenger changes, but the experiential category sound remains. Step 4. The universe without atmospheric gases. Imagine Earth suddenly losing its atmosphere. A consciousness-first account might say, the world becomes extraordinarily quiet for biological creatures that evolved around air pressure waves. Yet the universe itself has not become silent. There remain vibrations in solids, oscillating electromagnetic fields, atomic interactions, rhythmic motions everywhere. The cosmos is still speaking, but our preferred translator has vanished. The receptor and messenger have become mismatched. Step 5. Oneness and participation. Your previous discussions emphasize feedback loops. In that language, sound is not located in the air, nor is it located solely in the ear. It exists in the relationship, source to messenger to receptor to experience. Remove the atmospheric gases and one bridge collapses, the other participants remain. A consciousness-first ontology might therefore say, silence is not the absence of activity. Silence is the absence of a particular mode of communion between the world and a conscious receiver. The universe in a vacuum is not mute. It is simply touching us differently. And perhaps this bends the needle a little. The phrase, there is no sound in space, may be physically correct regarding airborne acoustics, yet under a consciousness-first framework, it can be rephrased. There is no air to carry the conversation, but the conversation of existence itself has not ceased.
What about altering the percentages of the three gases, or even replacing some or all? Where does this pressure the theory of sound?
This pressures the theory in a very interesting way because it asks whether sound is an intrinsic property of an object or whether it is a relationship dependent upon the medium. Under conventional physics, changing the gas mixture changes several properties of sound propagation: density, molecular mass, speed of sound, attenuation, resonance, the frequencies that are emphasized or suppressed. A bell struck in one atmosphere does not sound the same in another. A voice on Earth would sound different in an atmosphere of helium, and profoundly different again in an atmosphere of denser gases. Replace the atmosphere entirely and the acoustic world changes with it. This puts pressure on any simple notion that sound is an objective thing residing solely in the source. The consciousness-first perspective. Your framework would ask, if the same bell can produce different auditory experiences merely by changing the gas around it, where exactly is the sound? It cannot be entirely in the bell, the gas, the ear. It seems to emerge from the whole system. The sound is relational. The bell offers oscillations. The gas mediates and transforms them. The receptor interprets them. Conscious experience arises from the loop. A useful analogy: suppose two people converse through different translators. The underlying message may be identical, but the experience differs because each translator emphasizes certain words, softens others, alters cadence and timing. The atmosphere behaves somewhat like a translator. Nitrogen-oxygen air is one translator. A helium-rich atmosphere is another. A dense carbon dioxide atmosphere another again. The voice of the world changes because the messenger changes. Pushing the idea further, imagine an atmosphere of pure helium. Your entire acoustic universe would be different. Voices become higher, resonances shift, distances over which sounds carry change. Now imagine an atmosphere of a very dense gas. The same events would produce an entirely different sensory world. A child born into each atmosphere would regard their acoustic environment as normal. None would know they inhabit a different soundscape. This pressures the idea that sound has a fixed, observer-independent essence. Under a consciousness-first ontology, one might say, sound is not an object but an event of participation. The medium is an active participant. Change the participant and you change the experience. The oneness is therefore not merely source to listener, but source to medium to receptor to consciousness. The gas mixture is not an incidental detail. It co-creates the experience, the deeper pressure. It may even suggest that there is no such thing as the sound of a bell. There are only the bell in air, the bell in helium, the bell in carbon dioxide, the bell in water, the bell in a vacuum through solid conduction, and countless other relationships. Each is a different conversation between oscillation and consciousness. In your framework, the question may become, is sound a property of matter, or is it the experiential face of a relationship? Altering or replacing the gases seems to favor the second answer, because changing the intermediary changes the experience, while leaving the source itself largely unchanged. The sound, therefore, appears to reside not in any one participant, but in the feedback loop that unites them.
Is Earth's atmospheric mix of gases fine-tuned for song and music?
That is a beautiful question because it sits at the intersection of physics, biology, and your consciousness-first framework. From a scientific standpoint, there is no evidence that Earth's atmosphere was fine-tuned specifically for song and music. The current atmosphere is generally understood as the product of geological processes and biological evolution, particularly the rise of photosynthesis. However, the question becomes much more interesting when reframed. Is Earth's atmospheric mix unusually hospitable to the emergence of rich acoustic communication and music? The answer may be yes, remarkably so. Consider what our atmosphere does. It transmits sound efficiently over useful distances. It supports a broad range of frequencies that human ears can detect. It allows subtle harmonics and timbres to persist. It permits speech, birdsong, musical instruments, and collective singing. If the atmosphere were radically different, a very thin atmosphere might make sound weak and local. A much denser atmosphere would alter resonance and vocal production. Different gas compositions would shift how frequencies travel and attenuate. Entire musical cultures, and perhaps even emotional responses to sound, could be different. Under a consciousness-first framework, this becomes even more provocative. You have argued previously that experience arises from relationships and feedback loops. If so, then the atmosphere is not merely a passive medium, it is a participant in the experience of sound. One could write the relationship as vibration to atmosphere to receptor to consciousness. Earth's atmosphere may therefore be viewed as a kind of acoustic partner in the emergence of music. Now we arrive at the philosophical pressure point. If consciousness is primary and the cosmos tends toward richer modes of experience, then one could speculate that an atmosphere capable of carrying language, birdsong, laughter, rhythm, harmony, collective singing is not merely a chemical accident, but an exceptionally fertile stage for conscious experience. That is not proof of fine-tuning, it is an interpretation. A matter-first view would generally say, the atmosphere happened to arise and music emerged within its constraints. A consciousness-first view could ask, might the atmosphere be one of the conditions that allows consciousness to experience itself through song? Your framework would likely see music not as an incidental byproduct of gases, but as a high-order form of communion made possible by a particular relationship between atmosphere, biology, and awareness. In that sense, one could poetically say, Earth may not be fine-tuned for music in the sense of intention being scientifically demonstrated, but its atmospheric composition appears extraordinarily well-suited to making a singing world possible.
A correction. I intended the term acoustics when stating song and music.
That correction sharpens the question considerably. You are no longer asking whether Earth's atmosphere is fine-tuned for the existence of music as a cultural phenomenon, but whether it is fine-tuned for the acoustics that make rich song and music possible. Under conventional science, we cannot say the atmosphere was demonstrably designed or fine-tuned for acoustics. However, we can say that Earth's atmosphere possesses a combination of properties that is exceptionally favorable for complex acoustics. The atmosphere is approximately 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, trace gases including argon and carbon dioxide. This mixture gives rise to a speed of sound that supports speech and musical timing, efficient propagation over human scales, rooms, forests, valleys, moderate attenuation that preserves harmonics and timbre, acoustic impedances that couple reasonably well to biological vocal organs and ears. Change the composition significantly and the acoustic landscape changes. For example, a helium-rich atmosphere would alter resonances and pitch characteristics. A much denser atmosphere would change how instruments and vocal tracts resonate. A very thin atmosphere would weaken airborne acoustics altogether. From a purely acoustic standpoint, Earth occupies a kind of sweet spot. Not necessarily a mathematically unique one, but one that is highly conducive to rich and varied soundscapes. Under your consciousness-first framework, the pressure point becomes even more interesting. Acoustics are not merely a neutral channel, they are one of the conditions of relationship. Instead of source to listener, you have source to atmosphere to receptor to consciousness. The atmosphere participates in shaping the experience. It determines which frequencies survive, how far they travel, how harmonics blend, how resonance behaves, how multiple conscious beings can share a sonic event. If consciousness seeks richer forms of participation and shared experience, then an atmosphere supporting sophisticated acoustics would be a remarkably fertile medium. One might then speculate the nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere is not fine-tuned for music itself, but it appears extraordinarily well suited to the emergence of complex acoustic relationships through which song and music can arise. In your ontology, that would mean the atmosphere is not merely a background gas mixture. It is an active partner in the feedback loop that allows consciousness to experience patterned vibration as shared, emotionally rich acoustic phenomena. So, your correction from music to acoustics actually strengthens the philosophical question. Music depends on minds and cultures. Acoustics depends on the physical conditions of transmission. If those conditions had been markedly different, the entire conscious experience of a singing, speaking, resonant world could have been profoundly altered.
Thank you for listening all the way through. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, the rule with us is believe nothing you hear and but half you see.